Hello students, today we are going to work on lesson 5.2, solving system of linear equations by substitution. Make sure you take out your notebook and pencil. Everything we're going to do is in your notebook today. I'd do as many examples as you can so that you understand. Again, pause the video anytime you need to catch up or you want to try one on your own. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is put down these steps in your notebook. So pause the video and write down the 3 steps of solving a system of linear equation by substitution. So step 1 is solve one of the equations for one of the variables. In other words, you want it to be either x equals something or y equals something. Then you're going to substitute the expression from step 1 into the other equation and solve for the other variable, and then substitute again to get the original variable. It's going to be much easier once you see it. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. We have our 2 equations. Step number 1, remember, was to solve one of the equations for one variable. So we're already done. Y equals 2x minus 4 is already solved for y. So we have our y. So this is the expression now that we're going to substitute in to our other equation. So here's our other equation, 7x minus 2y equals 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this y and we're going to substitute this expression because y equals this. So we're going to substitute it in. So if we rewrite it, we have 7x minus 2, and then here's where I put that expression, 2x minus 4 equals 5. Now we're just going to simplify. We had simplification on our review homework, so now we're going to simplify. 7x, I'm going to double dash, make that a negative, and do the distributive property, so I get minus 4x. Negative times a negative is a positive 8 equals 5. So let's see, 7x minus 4x, I'm going to go up here as 3x, plus 8 equals 5. Now we're just going to solve the equation. We're going to subtract 8 from each side. I get 3x equals a negative 3. Divide by 3, x equals a negative 1. So here's one of our answers, but we're not done. This was step 2. Step 3 is we're going to take this negative 1 and plug it back in up here for x. So what's 2 times negative 1 minus 4? So 2 times a negative 1 is negative 2 minus 4. Y equals a negative 6. So our answer is going to be a negative 1, here's our x, and a negative 6. So there's our solution. And if we plug it back in, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, gives us a negative 6. We can even plug it back in here. 7 times a negative 1 is a negative 7. 2 times a negative 6 gives me a negative 12. We're subtracting it, so we double dash. Negative 7 plus 12, I believe, gives us 5. So we can go back and double check. I don't expect you to have it after one example, so let's do another one. What's nice about this is that both equations are already solved to y. So I'm going to make this equation, or this expression rather, go right in for this y. So I'm going to rewrite this 2x plus 3 equals 5x. I'm taking the expression that equals y and I'm plugging it in to y over here. So I got x's on both sides, so I'm going to subtract 2x so that it stays positive. 5 minus 2x is 3x. Divide by 3, x equals 1. So there's one of our answers. Now I'm going to plug that back in, and it doesn't matter which one you do. I can do 5 times 1. I can do 2 times 1 plus 3. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 3 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. So y equals 5. So our solution, here's our x, 1, 5. And there's our solution. Let's do another one. This equation's already solved for y, so this is the expression I'm going to plug in for that y. So I've got 4x plus 2 times 1/2 x minus 5 equals 0. So let's simplify. 4x, I'm going to do the distributive property, and here's what's nice. We get rid of a fraction. 2 times 1/2 x. Well, what's half of 2? 1x. So 1x minus 2 times 5 is 10. That equals 0. 4x plus 1x is 5x. Minus 10 equals 0. I'm going to add the 10. So I get 5x equals 10. I'm going to divide by 5. So x equals 2. Now I'm going to plug it back in. So x equals 2. I'm going to make this times 2. So what's half of 2? 1 minus 5. Y equals a negative 4. So again, x is 2. Y is negative 4. There's our solution. And we can come up here and plug it in. Remember, this is our x, this is our y. So 4 times 2 plus 2 times negative 4. So 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times negative 2 is a negative 8. What's 8 plus a negative 8? That equals 0. So we know we are correct. This one, we have our first equations that solved for x, and that works just fine. We're going to take that expression and substitute it in for x this time. So 2 times 5y plus 3 plus 4y equals a negative 1. We're going to simplify, so I get 10y plus 6 plus 4y equals a negative 1. 10y plus 4y gives us 14y plus 6 equals negative 1. Subtract 6, so 14y equals a negative 7. I'm going to bring it up here, so, whoops, so that I have room. Divide by 14. Now, this is going to equal a fraction because 7 over 14, that's negative 1/2. And that's fine. We can have fractions. It's just, I know it scares some of you, but we can have fractions. So now we're going to substitute this in. So we're going to solve for x. So 5 times a negative 1/2 plus 3. So let's see, that gives us a negative 2.5 plus 3 brings us out of the whole by half. So x equals 1/2. So our solution, x is 1/2, or if you did decimals, that's fine too. And y is negative 1/2, or negative 5/10. Either one of these would be correct answers. Okay, here's a word problem. Now we've already done writing equations, so we've got to write our equations. You buy a total of 50 turkey burgers and veggie burgers for $90. Well, there's our first one. You buy a total of turkey and veggie burgers. So let's see. Turkey burgers is X, veggie burgers is Y. So X plus Y equals 50. So now remember that's the number. Now let's do the value. So let's see. Turkey burgers were $2. So 2X plus $1.50 for the veggie burgers. And we spent $90. Now, here's the trick. We do not have an equation that's equal to either x or y. So I'm going to take the easy one. X plus y equals 50. And I'm just going to solve for x. I'm going to subtract y. So x equals 50 minus y. Now I have it solved for x. So this is my expression. that I'm going to plug in for this x. So 2 times 50 minus y plus $1.50y equals 90. Simplify, so I get 100 minus 2y plus 1.5y equals 90. Let's see, I get negative, so I get 100 minus, and that's, I believe, just a half y equals 90. I'm going to subtract my 100 over here. I don't like all the negatives, but sometimes we have to deal with it. That gives us a negative 10. So I'm going to divide by negative 5/10, divide by negative 5/10. Well, negative divided by negative gives us a positive. So how many halves are in 10? There's 20. 20 halves are in 10. And if you need to use your calculator, please do. So y equals 20. Well, let's plug it back in. Y equals 20. We'll go up here. What's 50 minus 20? X equals 30. So now here's where, because we're doing word problems, we need to write it out. And here's where I said you have to make sure you know what X stands for and what Y stands for. We have 30 turkey burgers and we have 20 veggie burgers. And that is the answer that I am looking for. When we are doing word problems, you have to make sure you label. If you don't, I will be counting it wrong. And a word problem like this would be worth 3 points. 1 for each equation, so 2 points for the equations, and another point for the solution. So beware, there's going to be problems like this on the test. So let's do another one. And again, if you feel like you want to try it by yourself, pause the video and try it. Otherwise, let's do it together. You sell lemonade for $2 a cup and orange juice for $3 a cup. You sell a total of 100 cups for $240. Write and solve a system of linear equations to find the number of cups of lemonade and the number of cups of orange juice. So I'm going to make lemonade X and orange juice Y. I don't care which one is which as long as you keep them separate, clear in your problems. So let's do a total of 100 cups. X plus Y equals 100. There's our number. Now let's do our value. Lemonade, I'm doing X, so 2X plus 3Y equals, and I sold it for $240. Wrote my 2 equations. There's 1 point, there's a second point. So I'm going to take this equation, and I got X plus Y equals 100. I'm going to subtract Y. So X equals 100 minus Y. So there's my expression for X. I'm going to plug it in here. So 2 times 100 minus Y plus 3Y equals 240. I'm going to simplify. So 200 minus 2Y plus 3Y equals 240. Negative 2Y plus 3Y just gives us a Y, positive Y. So 200 plus Y equals 240. Subtract the 200. So I have Y by itself. 240 minus 200 is 40. So there's our Y. I'm going to plug that in up here. 100 minus 40, X equals 60. So let's write, whoops, I forgot my 0. Sorry about that. Let's write out our answer. We sold 60 cups of lemonade and 40 cups of orange juice. And there's our answer, and that is point number 3. See, here's where I said if you get your X and Y mixed up, you're going to say 40 cups of lemonade and 60 cups of orange juice, and that will be wrong. Okay, let's just try some other ones where we just solve for Y or X, whatever. I'm going to take this one and solve for Y because Y is already by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4X from both sides. And here you really don't need to worry about switching it around, making it into slope-intercept form, because we're just substituting it in. Now I have a negative y, so all I'm going to do is go through and change all my signs. Instead of a negative, it's going to be a positive. Instead of a positive, it's going to be a negative and a positive. So y equals negative 3 plus 4x. So that's the expression that I'm going to plug in for y. So here we go, 2x plus 3 times, I'm going to plug in this expression, negative 3 plus 4x equals 5. I'm going to simplify 2x minus 9, because positive times a negative is a negative, plus 12x equals 5. I have 2x plus 12x, so that's 14x minus 9 equals 5. Add 9 to both sides. 14x equals 14. Well, gee, we can do that. Divide by 14, x equals 1. So now I'm going to substitute this in for up here. So I get negative 3. 4 times 1 is 4. Y equals 1. So our solution, x is 1, y is 1. And again, we can plug it in up here. What's 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 plus 3 equals 5. We're good. Same thing down here. 4 times 1 is 4. Minus 1 is 3. Good way to double check. Okay, which equation would you want to change? I'm hoping you said this bottom one, because x is already by itself. So I'm just going to subtract 6y. So x equals, well, 0 minus 6y just gives us a negative 6y. So I can leave that way. If you want to put the 0 in, you can, but you certainly don't have to. And here's our expression to plug in for our x right up here. So 2/3 x, which is negative 6y, plus 5y equals a negative 1. Now, here's where a fraction gets rid of itself. I got a positive plus a negative, so I know it's going to be a negative. What's 2/3 of 6? So 2/3 times 6 over 1. Oops, that should be a 3. So there's 1, 3, 2 6s. I get 4 over 1, which is 4. Y plus 5y equals negative 1. So negative 4 plus 5y gives me 1y. So in other words, y equals negative 1. We don't even need that 1. Y equals a negative 1. So I'm going to plug this in for my y right here. If y equals negative 1, what's a negative 6 times a negative 1? X equals a positive 6. So our solution is 6, negative 1. And again, we can plug it in. 2/3 of 6 we said was 4. 5 times a negative 1 is a negative 5. So what's 4 plus a negative 5? That gives us a negative 1. X is 6. 6 times a negative 1 would be a negative 6. What's 6 plus a negative 6? That gives us 0. Just a good way to double check. Okay, let's do one more. And this one is a little bit tricky just because I don't have any x or y basically by itself. But I'm going to do this first one because if you look, I've got a 2, I've got a 10, I've got a 14. They're all even numbers. It's going to make it really easy. And I'm going to solve for x because I know I can divide by 2, which is going to be easy with the other two numbers. So 2x plus 10y equals 14. You're going to kind of put it into slope-intercept form, only with x in front. So I'm going to subtract the 10y. So I get 2x equals 14 minus 10y. And I'm going to divide by 2, which gives me my x all by itself. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 10y minus 2 would be a negative 5y. So here's my expression for x. And I'm going to plug it in for there. So 5 times 7 minus 5y minus 9y equals 1. I'm going to simplify. 5 times 7 is 35. minus 25y minus 9y equals 1. Have some big numbers, but be careful, they're going to disappear. I'm going to add those two together. So I get 35 minus 34y equals 1. Subtract 35 from both sides. So I got negative 34y. 1 minus 35 gives us a negative 34. Divide both sides by negative 34. Y equals a positive 1. So even with the big numbers, we end up with a small one. So let's take that 1, plug it into this equation, substitute it in. 7 minus 5 gives us 2, which is our x. So our solution, 2 and 1. If you plug it back in, 2 times 2 is 4. 10 times 1 is 10. Add them together, you get 14. We have the correct answer. So your homework is the last 2 pages after this lesson, numbers 10 through 21. Make sure you show all your work on a separate sheet of paper, and if you have questions, feel free to send me a message. Good luck.